Hello and welcome to No Books Allowed, a series where I watch films based on novels and pretend that the books just don't exist, which means if anything is explained within the aged page of your favorite novel, but not in the film, then it's meaningless to me. To kick this off, let's begin with the series that left millions of 11-year-olds sad on their birthday, with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is part 2 of the Philosopher's Stone review. Before you watch, make sure you watch part 1 by clicking on either the link in the description or on the screen. Otherwise, I'll leave you more in the dark than Dumbledore left Harry at the end of the film. Ron upsets Hermione by saying she's a nightmare, and Hermione is so upset, she locks herself in the bathroom to cry. While talking, the turban-wearing, not-evil professor bursts in shouting, "Turn around in the dungeon!" Remember that scene, alright? Remember it for later because it's going to be a little bit important. Ron and Potter go to save Hermione, as the troll just so happens to be going into the bathroom. Flippin' pervert, am I right? The troll has some really impressive CG, I'll give it that. So Ron uses Leviosa on the troll's club, and wait a frickin' second. Why were they practicing on feathers? What's the weight limit to the spell? I thought they used feathers because you had to start small, but apparently not. Can you Leviosa in New York City with enough swish and flicks? Not now, Fantastic Beasts. You deserve your own full shitty movie review. Yeah, so Emma Watson, Ron, and Potter are all friends now, since they risk each other's lives and detention for each other. Harry notices a suspicious cut and limp on Alan Rickman's limb. Harry figures Snape wants whatever is in that trapdoor guarded by the Hellpuppers. Potter gets a Nimbus Bloody 2000, the sweetest broomstick around. It's so cool it makes witches get wet, and it makes wizards get hard, it makes beaters beat, and bludgeoners beat too. Skipping the Quidditch scene one more time, it's mostly just fantastical filler, but it is super fun to watch, and I do want to cover Quidditch later, probably in the second one, and a little bit more in the fifth. It's a great scene though. Don't let my bitching get to you. I do love this movie. Although I will say, Luke Youngblood is the Quidditch announcer, and he's a main character in my favorite show, Gallivant, so that was really fun to notice. The plot stuff that happens though is that Harry's broomstick goes haywire, and they see Alan Rickman So since they already suspect him of shady stuff, they assume he's jinxing it. So Emma lights Alan Rickman on fire. I'm gonna save this clip to demonstrate again later how brilliant the movie can sometimes be. The director was actually pretty amazing at the subtlety of character and motions going on screen. The trio bring up their concerns about Snape to Hagrid, and he tells them that they shouldn't be concerned. The trio get the name Nicholas Flamel out of him, and from there we cut to Christmas. The people with families head home for holiday. Hermie's on her way home, and the scene creates an amazing foreshadowing of events to come, but in a way so clever that unless you already knew, you'd never be able to tell. So Harry and Ron plan to research Nicholas Flamel on Christmas. Harry gets Christmas presents, and the joy and happiness the boy expresses is heartwarming. It's touching knowing that he's never had any. Harry gets a mysterious note and an invisibility cloak. Ron knows what the cloak is pretty quick. Remember that from when we get to the 7th and 8th movies. Pothead goes into the forbidden section of the library to research Nicholas, as he isn't in any normal book. This begs the question, why is there a forbidden library, and wouldn't it be locked away by magic? We see later in the movie that it is possible to lock things where a lock-like spell doesn't actually work on it. Wouldn't the forbidden library be less detectable? So Harry bumps into Quirrell and Snape. I'll show you the full interaction.
We'll have another little chat soon, when you've had time to decide where your loyalties lie.
After the scene during Quidditch and this, it should be obvious to the audience that Turban Man knows more than he's letting on. He was also the one to stir panic and get everybody to leave the Great Hall by yelling about the troll in the dungeon. It's okay if you didn't make this connection immediately. You weren't meant to. But the shot that I told you to remember earlier, its entire purpose was to foreshadow the villain being Quirrell. Watch as the only person Snape makes contact with as he's flailing backwards is Turban Man. An experienced moviegoer may have figured out Quirrell is the bad guy by now, but it isn't necessarily obvious. This is another great piece of subtleness the movie had going for it, and I'll probably bring it up one more time. Potter finds a mirror where you see whatever you want most in life. Harry sees his parents. Dumbledore warns him about it after Harry starts to get addicted to looking into it. Holiday's up, first day back, and Hermione's first line is,
I had you looking in the wrong section. How could I be so stupid?
God, she's so likably unlikable. So they finally figure out who Nicholas Flamel is. And I want to say, this is really cool. This is the only time in the entire Harry Potter movie series where they really translate real life events and real life people with actual achievements flawlessly into the magical world. Nicholas Flamel, and I find it odd how many people I meet who seem to only know him from Harry Potter, is the real life, creator of the Philosopher's Stone, and has a legend about achieving immortality. In this wizarding world, he actually did do it, and the stone is real. I just love how smooth this flows. It's like cutting butter with a lightsaber. Hermione is actually the one to figure out that the Philosopher's Stone is hidden underneath the trapdoor. Oh, and I should point this out right now, 20 minutes or so into the review, that I am watching the UK version. I'm not a dumb American. I don't think I missed the 2 movies before the madness of King George III. I know what revoked means, and I know what a philosopher is. The trio tells Hagrid they know about the stone, and he tries shooing them away, but eventually gives in. He picked up a bloody dragon egg, which is apparently highly illegal.
Is that a dragon?
No, Hermione, that's a penguin. Malfoy catches them outside after dark, and they all get charged with detention, Draco included, because the smug bastard was also outside. Their detention is a trip to the Dark Forest. Remember the place first years aren't allowed to go for any reason? Okay. So Draco tries to plead out.
We can't go in there. Students aren't allowed.
God damn it, Walder Frey. First you killed Robb Stark, now you're gonna kill Harry Potter in the Dark Forest. Man, you're creepy. So out in the Forbidden Forest, Harry and Ellen DeGeneres find a creepy robed figure feasting on a unicorn. As they meet, Harry has another scar ache. Draco abandons Harry, leaving him face to face with the terrifying as fuck creature thing. Look at the way it moves, it's like an evil snake man. Just before it kills him, Harry gets saved by a motherfucking centaur. The robed figure runs away with the battle cry of,
I could outrun a centaur.
Harry learns that feasting on such a pure creature can keep you alive from the brink of total death, but from then on, your life becomes cursed. You live a twisted half-life. It's a really cool concept.
Harry Potter, this is where I leave you.
What? You didn't go anywhere. Why is this where you leave him? Am I missing something? It's a really cool concept, and I do think it'd be interesting to see what they do more in the future with it. They never do anything with it again. Harry realizes that was Voldemort, living from the unicorn, biding time, trying to get the Philosopher's Stone. The man who sold Hagrid the dragon egg, in exchange for information about Fluffy, the three-headed puppers, was Voldemort. And when the trio rushed to see Dumbledore, he was conveniently just called out to the Ministry of Magic, the same day that Valymort was going to make his attack. The teachers, believing the defenses would hold, dismissed the trio, leaving it all up to them to stop he who must not be named but is named every few minutes. The 3 sneak out that night. Remember Neville standing up to the bully pep talk? Well, he does stand up to them. After costing Gryffindor 150 points last time they snuck out, he stands up to them. And it shows fragments of what his character is going to become. If you haven't already, you'll see by episode 8. They find Fluffy already sleeping, so they get past her. They fall into plants called devil's snares. They strangle you, and the more you struggle, the worse they get. You have to relax or you die. They use relaxation and sunlight because Ron's a baby. Third trial is literally find a key with a flying broom. The insects things attack, yeah, but it's not like they have bladed wings or anything. I don't understand why a Leviosa spell wouldn't have grabbed it. The movie doesn't state it wouldn't anywhere. You know, these trials are starting to seem a bit lame. The 4th trial is a chess game, but the chess pieces is people. Remember the wizard chess from earlier? It was a hint at the chess game to come. It showed Ron being good at chess on purpose, a strategical thinking skill that I don't actually think Ron will ever use again. Ron sacrifices himself to let them win, but he, doesn't die or anything. Again, it's a really lame trap. All of these traps were too simple. A basic grass trap, a basic chess match, a basic key grab. Where are the death runes, the lightning spells, the instant death tripwires? These aren't traps, they're mini-games at a wizard carnival. Harry goes on alone to the final room, telling Hermie to get Dumbledore. He walks down a flight of stairs and confronts the villain. It was Professor Quirrell! Dun dun dun! Again, if this took you by surprise, I don't blame you, but by the end of the film they threw so many hints I found it hard not to notice after the Quidditch scene. Remember what I told you to remember about that scene? Look at Quirrell's positioning on the ground. His turban fell forward and his head was exposed to a mass of moving children. If his turban had been pulled off by even a stray foot, or if it leaned forward slightly while he fell, his whole plan would have been ruined. I can't discredit the movie for not thinking about the logistics, and this is extremely nitpicky, but Quirrell endangered himself right there, and it was totally out of character. Quirrell is trying to use the Mirror of Erised to get the Philosopher's Stone, as that is the secret to getting it, using the mirror. He is unable. However, when Harry looks into the mirror, he actually gets it. I'll save my questions, as I have a feeling they may be explained. It was a very clever way of defeating a villain. I'll give them that. But you'll see why it doesn't make sense as we continue. Anyways, getting back to it. Oh, Jesus, fuck! Voldemort lived on the back of Cubert's head, sharing bodies trying to survive. Voldemort is a separate person from Quirrell. This is actually why if the turban had fallen, like I had said, it would have ruined everything. They'd have seen his face. So in a fight with Quirrell, this happens. So Quirrell touches Harry and his hand turns to dust. So Harry shoves his hand into Quirrell's face and murders the hell out of him. Harry Potter just murdered a guy with no remorse. If he doesn't have some sort of emotional turmoil over this, or some sort of therapy where he talks about it, mentions it to Dumbledore, or something about how he just straight murdered Quirrell, I'll honestly be a little upset. Whose idea was it to have an 11-year-old boy up and murder someone? Wouldn't it have just, made more sense if Voldemort had realized that Dumbledore was on the way and, drain Quirrell's life force really quick so we could, make a clean getaway? Wink. Well, that happened. So, Voldy's spirit gets away and Harry wakes up at the hospital. He did it! Yay! He totes won. So, as dumbfounded Door walks in, the thought occurs to me. Dumbledore set the whole thing up, as it was fully guided. He kept the mirror out, specifically for Harry to find it. He needed Harry to know how the thing worked before facing Voldemort. The mirror was only moved once Harry knew how to work it. Dumbledore was just observing Harry, or at least that's what it seemed like. The stone was in the mirror, so why else would it be laying around? That would also explain why the traps sucked. It was meant for Harry to be able to get through them. Dumbledore knew that Voldemortician couldn't get the stone, as to get the stone you have to not want to use it, so he never actually needed to truly defend the mirror. Out in the open or hidden behind some traps, the results were the same. In fact, the traps were only to prepare Harry to teach him in a controlled environment. Harry was never in danger. Rotating Door would have been there in an instant. Rickmert never had a chance and was completely, utterly played by Dumbledore. It sounds the same that time, but I spelled it with a silent E to keep up the running gag that I say their names wrong. That's my theory at least, but this is my problem with that. Quirrell and Voldemort were two separate people. Voldemort wanted to use the stone. Quirrell wanted to give the stone to someone. He didn't want to use it. So, if you actually needed to not want to use the stone, but want to get the stone, why didn't Quirrell get it?
My more brilliant idea.
Dumbledore foreshadows something incredible with this line.
It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends. I award 10 points to Neville Longbottom.
And it all wraps up at the end of the year with a bit of a bittersweet moment as Harry's forced to return to the Dursleys
Funny business.
for summer. And I kind of failed to address the aesthetic because I wasn't sure where to put it until now, but I'll just say this. The visual and sound design has been incredibly godly this movie. The entire soundtrack is iconic at this point. Hogwarts looks amazing and is incredibly well detailed. The amount of practical effects leaves the entire world feeling magical and familiar. I would watch this movie, or even another series like it, for the visuals alone. It's one of the reasons I enjoyed Earthsea so much. Aesthetics do matter for something. Now, in the end, they didn't explain very many things. They never explained the houses, short of Slytherins are evil but great, and Gryffindors are apparently for courage. How magic works was never explained, and I doubt it ever will be. The plot contrivances were never explained. Character motivations were sloppy. The fact that Snape didn't just explain things was dumb. McGonagall ignoring the students was completely out of character. Hermione clearly had friends, but the plot said she didn't. The staircases make literally no sense whatso bleedin' ever, and the way that Harry beats the villain doesn't make any sense either. But how do I rate this as a movie? Look, I need one more aside. I know someone's about to get angry, someone's probably about to feel personally attacked. The movie is extraordinarily average. For a movie about a wizarding school, you don't really see them learn many spells. In fact, you see them learn a total of one spell, and it only rose more questions than it answered. The main character is incredibly stale, and not for lack of Daniel Radcliffe trying. He's a great actor. The main character just suffers from main character syndrome. He's boring, so children could project themselves onto him. The film is a clear case of the world being more interesting than the characters. Hermione's character was portrayed terribly in this film. She just came off as a bitch. Fun fact, if you add up all the points she won and lost in this entire movie, it actually comes out to -5. Yep, -5 from McGonagall, -50 from McGonagall, +50 from Dumbledore. The wizarding world doesn't make any goddamn sense. Take away all of your Harry Potter knowledge, all the love you have for it, and everything you know. Take away the books from the equation, and watch this movie alone. It isn't very good. Not to say it's bad. As I said, it's extraordinarily average. According to this movie, Hagrid is just a really big human being. I also have yet to understand why he used an umbrella instead of a wand, for an example of the things it never explains. It's also interesting that there are no teachers who lead their own respective houses. Seems like they'd have no control. I bet Snape would be a good house leader for Slytherin. What about you, movie? What do you think? Oh wait, you can't speak, you're a fucking movie. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you gave me a like. Comment your thoughts, and if you want to see the Chamber of Secrets as soon as it comes out, smash that subscribe button. Cheers.